Hey everybody, this is Sean Riley with Riley Real Estate and MassHomesale.com with this week's Q&A Saturday video. This week we're going to stick on the same topic as we talked about last week when we discussed if you should get a home inspection, and stick with questions about buying a house. So this week we're going to answer the question of, should I hire a real estate agent when I'm buying a house? So, for the most part, people do use real estate agents for all real estate transactions. It's especially common for people who are going to buy houses. One reason for that is because, as people always say, it's the seller pays them, which is true. So when a seller lists with a real estate agent, they agree to pay a total commission, and the agent they list with generally will split that commission with an agent that is working with a buyer. So generally does not cost you anything out of pocket to work with a real estate agent. So that's a big advantage. There are some situations where that might not work out. If you are buying a house that is not listed, sometimes the seller doesn't want to pay a commission, so you either have to pay it or convince the seller to pay one after the fact. So does not come up a lot, but it is something that can happen. Also, when you sign a contract with an agent, there is usually a stipulation for a minimum commission that they will get paid, and if that's less than what the listing agent for the property is offering, you would be responsible for paying the difference. In Massachusetts and New Hampshire, you don't run into that too much because the houses are pretty expensive. This is something that comes more in play if you are, as we talked about when you were investing out of state in a video a few weeks ago, if you're investing in properties that are only $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, sometimes there will be additional commission that will be due above whatever the split is. That's actually pretty common in those areas. Other reasons you might not want to work with a real estate agent is if you go in and put in an offer on a place with the listing agent, they would get the entire commission, and sometimes that would make them a little more likely to be flexible. If you and the seller are pretty close on a price, but there's a couple $1,000 difference, and nobody wants to give that up, the agent might be a little more likely to say, like, hey, you know what, I'll give back a little of my commission, because if they're there's no such thing as a standard commission, but commonly you see something around 6%. So if they're looking at 6% instead of 3% because they don't have to split it, they might be willing to kick in a few $1,000 because they're still making a lot more money. So that's one of the theories there, and sometimes it's true, but a lot of times it's not true. A lot of times agents would rather just not have to do that extra work and not get the extra commission for it. I personally don't think it's twice as much work, so I think it's well worth it, but some agents don't want to do that. So sometimes they'll even tell you, it's like, no, get your own representation. I don't even want to do that. That's sort of the biggest advantage people talk about with not working with an agent. If you find a good agent, there's really no particular disadvantage other than, like I said, some of those less common situations where you might be responsible for some commission. But if they're really good, they're worth paying for anyway. The big issue is that a lot of real estate agents aren't very good. A lot of them are very well-meaning, but they might not have much experience. They might be part-time. They might be just really desperate to get clients, so they might be willing to work with you even if you're looking at an area that they don't know as well. So the biggest thing is to make sure you really vet out your agent if you want to work with them. Ask them a lot of questions. Make sure that they're a good personality fit with you, because you could be spending quite a bit of time with them, so you should get along. And you should definitely make sure they understand and know the area that you're looking in pretty well. And you want to make sure that they're pretty experienced. You really don't want to work with somebody who's brand new. Like, even if they're really good, you just don't know, and they don't know what they don't know. It's a pretty common setup to have a team of real estate agents, so you might have a more experienced person leading a team of other agents, and some of those agents might be a little bit newer. And if you want to work with one of them, if you really like them, that's a little bit better, because if you do that, there should be an experienced team behind them. So if they run into a situation that they haven't dealt with before, hopefully one of the other people on the team will be able to help them through it. So more or less, if you're going to buy a house, especially if you're a first-time home buyer or just looking for a place to live on your own, not an investor per se, it is pretty advantageous to work with agents, because, like I said, for the most part, you don't have to pay them, and they do help you find stuff. They get you access to the MLS, which is something, even if they don't know too much else, that's pretty valuable in and of itself. Excuse me. So the most important thing is just to make sure you interview them and ask them a lot of the right questions to try to make sure they're a good fit for you. But if you can find a good agent that's a good fit and you're looking just to buy your own house, it's probably the best way to go. Otherwise, you need to make your own decisions on that. But if you read some of the articles that I linked to, there are some pretty good articles and videos talking about some of the traditional home buying process with an agent. If you're an investor, it's a little bit of a different story. It's still not a bad thing to work with agents. I'm an agent myself, and I work with other agents to buy and to sell stuff sometimes. So I see the value there, but I also do a lot of stuff on my own, and I did a lot of stuff on my own before I had a license. So I see the positives and negatives, and I actually look at pretty much every situation on its own to figure out when it's going to make the most sense. But anyway, so if you have any other questions or anything you would like me to elaborate on, as always, leave a comment below, and I'll be happy to answer it. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. If you have questions that you would like to have answered, as always, you can put it on our Facebook group, our Facebook page, our Twitter account, or send an email to info@masshomesale.com. Until next week, I will see you then. All right? Thanks. Bye-bye, guys.